In the year 79 AD, an entire city disappeared in a single day. Thousands of people were buried under volcanic ash. This is the terrifying story of Pompeii. To understand the tragedy, we must first see the life that was lost. Pompeii was a jewel of the Roman Empire. It was a city of luxury, commerce, and pleasure. Merchants sold garum fish sauce and fine wines from the hills. Children played in the streets while politicians debated in the forum. Over 12,000 people called this place home. They lived in the shadow of a giant, unaware of its power. To the Romans, Vesuvius was just a mountain. They didn't even have a word for volcano. But in the summer of 79 AD, the mountain began to stir. Small earthquakes shook the city for days. The Romans ignored the warnings. They were used to tremors. Wells across the city suddenly began to run dry. Deep underground, magma was fracturing the rock. On the morning of August the 24th, the air turned heavy. Animals fled the slopes in a panicked exodus. Then, at midday, the silence was shattered. With a roar louder than thunder, Vesuvius exploded. A column of ash and pumice shot 20 miles into the sky. This was the Plinian phase of the eruption. Day instantly turned into the deepest night. Tiny white pebbles called lapilli began to rain down. Across the bay, Pliny the Younger watched in horror. He described a cloud that looked like a giant Mediterranean pine. But the worst was yet to come. At midnight, the eruption column collapsed under its own weight. This triggered the first pyroclastic flow. It traveled at over 100 miles per hour. The temperature inside the flow reached 700 degrees Fahrenheit. The first wave hit the neighboring town of Herculaneum. Pompeii was next. There was no time to scream. The surge hit the city walls like a tidal wave of fire. It incinerated everything in its path instantly. Those still alive were suffocated by the toxic gas. In a heartbeat, the heart of the city stopped beating. By the next morning, Pompeii was gone. Only the top of the tallest buildings poked through the debris. 6 million tons of volcanic material now covered the city. The coastline had shifted. The sea was now half a mile away. Survivors returned to find nothing. No landmarks remained, no streets, no homes. For the Roman Empire, it was a tragedy of epic proportions. But as the decades passed, the memory of Pompeii faded. The name was forgotten. The location was lost. For 1,500 years, Pompeii slept in a tomb of stone. In 1592, an architect digging a canal struck a stone wall. But it wasn't until 1748 that real excavations began. They expected to find treasure. Instead, they found a ghost story. Because the ash had sealed out oxygen, everything was preserved. Wall paintings looked as if they had been painted yesterday. In the 1860s, Giuseppe Fiorelli noticed strange voids in the ash. When the plaster hardened and the ash was removed, the truth emerged. These were the negative imprints of the victims in their final moments. We can see their fear. We can see their pain. A mother holding her child. A dog straining at its leash. Pompeii is the only place on Earth where the ancient world still lives. It is a time capsule of a Friday afternoon in the 1st century. Today, Vesuvius is still active, watching over the ruins. A reminder of how quickly everything we build can vanish. Pompeii was destroyed by the mountain, but preserved by the ash, forever. Panic gripped the streets of Pompeii. Some fled toward the sea, hoping for a boat. Others took shelter in their homes, believing the walls would protect them. But the weight of the ash was relentless. For hours, the city was buried in a foot of stone every hour.